Director of the Alternative Fuel Program at Santa Fe Community College in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we've had this program underway for about 3 years now. And I was asked to create a program, some kind of training program in New Mexico that would train students in biofuels. And so we started out with biodiesel, setting up a program training people how to produce biodiesel from restaurant oil that we gathered locally. And we acquired a small, kind of simple biodiesel with bioreactor, we should call it that. Also ethanol, we got some stills, and we probably got to produce ethanol and algae. And we're particularly interested in algae because we have several different big companies out in New Mexico, one called Sapphire Energy, that's gotten hundreds of millions of dollars from Bill Gates and the U.S. government to essentially grow algae in very large ponds. So we set up a small instructional experience at our college to show students how to cultivate and grow algae. And that's expanding yearly, basically. We're getting bigger and bigger bioreactors, and we'll see some pictures of this in our presentation. So recently we received a $500,000 grant to expand our program into something called a Biofuels Center of Excellence. This was part of a $2 million grant that the feds gave to the state of New Mexico to establish 4 centers of excellence, one for solar, one for wind, one for biofuels, one for green building. And our college acquired the green building and the biofuels center of excellence funding. And then another college in Albuquerque got the solar funding, and another college in the eastern corner of the state got the money for the wind center. So what I'm going to be showing you here is sort of an overview of our permanent program at the college, and also how we're expanding, or plan to expand, into the Biofuels Center of Excellence. So as I mentioned, the project is funded by the state of New Mexico through the Department of Workforce Solutions. And so this is meant to be a workforce training program. And we haven't started it yet, but to qualify, you basically just need to be unemployed and have a financial need, so to speak, or Native American or veterans. And the idea is to provide free training for individuals that are currently unemployed and want to enter these different fields. And several of the instructors in the program are here, so they will describe a little bit more. This was the original biofuels program that I set up, and you can see basically we've got alternative fuels and advanced vehicle technologies, and then we also have biology and chemistry, and introduction to sustainable technologies, electrical and mechanical fundamentals, planning the entrepreneurial venture. The reason that's in there is because there really isn't a biofuels industry in New Mexico yet. So what kind of jobs can we send these students into? Well, they just really don't exist yet. So we're realizing that we've really got to train entrepreneurs. We've got to train our students to go out there and create their own jobs. And several of them, in fact, have already done this. One of our students has created the go-to algae information site called algaeindustrymagazine.com, and that's become quite successful. Another student has created a company called New Solutions Energy that makes algae photobioreactors and plans to market and sell those. And we have some other students that are creating a spirulina production company. That they're going to be growing spirulina, putting it into high-energy bars, and selling in the retail market through health food stores. And that's just a few of the projects that are underway. This is a 29 credit hour, 2-semester curriculum at the community college. And these are the 3 courses really that I teach and Zuby teaches, who's here, and some of our other instructors. So they start out with this one, Intro to Alternative Fuels. This is where they learn about the history of petroleum and electric cars and ethanol and biodiesel. And then in the Biofuels 1, we're going to take them into deeper into biodiesel, also hopefully the gasification and pyrolysis, the things we're learning here. We want to build what is going on here into our program. We're going to be acquiring a 10K gasifier. We also want to have biochar in here as well. And then Biofuels 2 is going to mainly focus on algae cultivation and production. And then, of course, these other classes are your basic science courses that provide the science you need to be more successful doing these things. This is our new facility. The college raised $20 million to build this new facility. Our facility is this section right here. The solar is right next to us over here. Green buildings over here. Then we have welding and plumbing behind all this. And there's a very large solar system on the roof here. And this whole roof is meant to be a training facility for students going into solar. And where's Ziggy? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about what's on the roof here, real quickly.
Sure. It's a solar thermal system that's designed. Originally, it was going to be concentrating solar. Unfortunately, Heliodynamics, who was installing that system, went out of business midway through construction. So we switched. We switched over quickly. Now there are over 2,000 evacuated tube solar thermal collectors up on the roof there, which is more than you need to actually heat our building. What this system is actually designed for is for heating in the wintertime, and we have surplus heat from our building we export into other parts of the campus. But also, it's designed. We have something called an adsorber chiller that takes the heat from the solar thermal system and through desiccation cycles is able to make chilled water, so our air conditioning and cooling for this building are all done with the solar thermal panels. Just on a side note, the rest of the campus is heated by a biomass boiler. So the whole rest of the campus operates off of burning wood chips or somewhat of a gasification module.
So this is called our Advanced Trades and Technology Building. And we have beautiful classrooms in here, and these are big 2,300 square foot spaces in here, much like kind of what you have here, but much bigger. Big garage doors on the front. We have a small biogas unit out here that Big Chambers has put together for us. Here's one of our algae photobioreactors, and we've got some better shots as we go along. This is our classroom. We've got nice big screens and overhead video projectors and large flat screen TVs here for projection purposes. And then this kind of looks at the other angle of the room here. And these are our large tanks that contain the algae and the nutritional material for the algae. So the photobioreactors are outside the building here. And okay, so we'll show you some other pictures a little further along here. So, in our Biofuels program, we have 4 basic modules. Algae cultivation and production, and this is about a 30-hour course over a period of maybe 5 days. Biodiesel processing and production, this is about an 18-hour course over 3 days. And we'll be acquiring something called a BioPro 190, which is the biodiesel version of the gasifier, basically. It's a touchscreen control type device that will process 50 gallons of biodiesel in 13 hours, kind of thing. And microprocessor control. Then we have our biogas pyrolysis and gasification process and production, and that's what we're going to be employing the geek in this particular program here. Also demonstrating smaller scale biogas production as well. Ethanol processing down here. We'll be doing fermentation, and starch conversion, and distillation. We're able to get 182 proof alcohol in our alcohol process here. And we actually have one of the few alcohol permits in New Mexico, so we can do this legally. We get 96% pure ethanol. This is the biodiesel production module. This is the BioPro 190. As you can see, it's got a nice automated software control system up here. You just put in your restaurant oil, feed your
So, for instance, we started a solar thermal lab just up this semester. And the students, one of the choices that the solar thermal said, I walked them all over campus and gave them a list of all different kinds of projects you might want to work on. You know, there's lots of opportunities for solar thermal applications. The first thing they chose was they want to run the still on solar thermal. They're all excited about that. Now, a lot of people, David Bloom and everybody else tells me that you cannot run a still off of solar thermal. The students don't buy it, and I'm with them. I know we're going to be able to be successful. So when we have our big solar festival day on May 5th, we are planning to have a solar still operating out here on the roof. So
you have to put it under vacuum?
But no, we won't have to, because I mean, we only need about 185 degree temperature for the fermentation. We're at 7,000 feet, so our boiling temperatures are somewhat lower. Right. So, okay. So, and the other interesting thing is the other program that the students want to do once they finish with the ethanol still is they want to create a system for heating and cooling the algae ponds, so they don't have to pump them into the building every night or when it gets too hot. And so the interesting thing is they're going to have an array that has 2 panels and 2 tanks, because one tank they're going to use the solar thermal energy from the sun and heat up the water all day, and at night they're going to use the night sky radiant cooling effect to cool the water in the other tank all night. So they're really excited to see what kind of a difference in temperature between the 2 tanks we can get and use that to either cool or heat the algae. So that's pretty exciting for me. So that's enough about my solar program. We'll go into the ethanol curriculum. So we start out with engine types, combustion properties, go on to why using ethanol, the history of ethanol, and things like prohibition and how Rockefeller really, a lot of prohibition really had an awful lot to do with trying to shift from ethanol over to gasoline to power all of our vehicles, and we're determined to kind of switch that back the other direction. Chemistry of starch conversions and fermentation. Really, in terms of our ethanol programs, it's not very hard to run a still. It's not that hard to do fermentation if you don't care what it tastes like. So the real big thing is the starch conversion issue. How do we take a variety of feedstocks? And we're trying to focus on things, corn is probably one of the most ridiculous plants you could possibly use to make ethanol in terms of all of its demands and the very limited part of the plant that you actually ended up using to make ethanol. So we're working on other things. We have a plant called the buffalo gourd that grows wild all over New Mexico. And it has a tuber that can be like a 15-pound tuber. And there's different ways of growing that because for a variety of reasons, it's a really good plant. And we're looking at lots of different kinds of feedstocks. The students are really focused on using waste products, not just agricultural products, but looking at waste products. So one of the things we like to do every semester that the students get a real kick out of is we make a whole bunch of ethanol from Dunkin' Donuts that we steal out of their dumpsters. So, and they do. I mean, I worked at Dunkin'. My first job when I was a kid was at Dunkin' Donuts, and they throw a lot. We could make an awful lot of ethanol from the donuts they threw away. We've now, since one of our students in the Biofuel Club now started a Biofuels newsletter. He's going out and he's running around to all the grocery stores, all the restaurants, and going to made a deal with, so we don't have to go into their dumpster anymore. They're actually saving their donuts for us now. So we're really looking at all the kind of waste products that we can use. Also, all the programs at our school, we're really focusing in on OSHA safety considerations and what are the possible dangers in the program. And every student starting in fall of next year, every student in all of our programs has to get an OSHA 10 or an OSHA 30 card as part of the curriculum. And that's becoming more and more the case. Most of the government jobs now, if you go out to work at a contractor hires you, people have to have an OSHA 10 or an OSHA 30 card in order to be able to work on these sites. So that's a big focus for us. Process of distillation, how it works, and the chemistry of alcohol production, feedstock collection and preparation. We're getting a hammer mill so we can get a nice particle size for a variety of feedstocks coming in. Process of feedstock materials into alcohol and the market opportunities. One of the things I took a couple of our students from the Biofuels Club. We have one big ethanol plant in eastern New Mexico. So we went out there to tour that to find out what are the real opportunities in job creation in ethanol. We went out there and what we found out was the people running the ethanol plant, they don't care if their employees know how to make ethanol. They want their employees to know how to replace pumps, fix pipes, all the kinds of mechanics of it. So they're really looking for plumbers, which we can provide them with.